Thanks for the wonderful response I got to 10 Australian movies you must see part 1, with people suggested movies for part 2, but not all of them made the cut. So without further ado, here are 10 Australian movies you must see part 2. This political comedy is looking more and more prophetic as time goes on and Australia becomes more balkanised. Ray Barrett plays a disgraced Queensland ex-Deputy Police Commissioner living in poverty on the Gold Coast.
The winter sun was going down on Surfers Paradise. It was my 98th day on the wag and it didn't feel any better than my 97th. I missed my hip flask of Johnny Walker, my ex-wife Jean, my pet dog Samari, and my exorbitant salary as Deputy Commissioner of Police.
Michael Stacey, OBE, is asked to look for the missing daughter of an ex-politician friend. He stumbles drunkenly into the centre of a wide-ranging conspiracy to carry out a coup d'etat in southern Queensland.
The crooner sounded like two old cheese graters fornicating in an iron tank. The wallpaper was beginning to look hostile.
Down Mexico way. Hi, Stace.
Wandering through the tacky nightlife of Surfers Paradise, Stacey encounters New Age gurus, commune hippies, deadly doctors and dodgy politicians. He unravels the mystery more by accident than design, and somehow on the way, he manages to sober up and get his life back on track. Ray Barrett is brilliant in this one. It's a career best performance. He's supported well by Robin Nevin, Chris Quaid, Guy Dolman, and Alex Marinos. The script co-written by Denny Lawrence and Bob Ellis is sardonically funny. The movie also has a voiceover by Stacey that, unlike most protagonist voiceovers in movies, actually enhances the narrative.
And part of it was his new wife, a social climbing air hostess with designs on Buckingham Palace. She looked 10 years younger since her hysterectomy, and mean as a beach full of blue bottles.
Filmed in Queensland during the corrupt state government of Johannes Bjelke-Petersen, Goodbye Paradise talks about very 21st century issues. Corruption of politics by corporate interests, the manipulation of idealistic young people by cunning older people, and the old-fashioned idea that there are things and beliefs from the past that are worth preserving, and that these things can't be replaced by economics or bread and circuses. Goodbye Paradise was all but lost until Umbrella Entertainment released it on DVD in 2019. It's one of my 2 or 3 favourite Australian movies. Shame could be seen as a companion piece to Wake in Fright and to the last movie I'm going to talk about in this video. A stranger enters a country town which has a toxic masculine culture, but unlike Wake in Fright, where the town swallows the stranger, in Shame, that stranger, a woman on a motorcycle, is a catalyst for positive change. More than a decade before her husband became an action hero, Deborra-lee gives us a hero both memorable and uniquely Australian. The town of Jimbarak in the Western Australian wheat belt is the setting. When her motorcycle needs repair, a woman called Asta Cadell finds that she needs to spend a couple of days in town while waiting for spare parts. She stays with Tim, Tony Barry, the local mechanic, and his family, including his daughter Lizzie, Simone Buchanan, who is being gang raped by local youths. The women of Jimbarak live in fear of the gangs that rampage through the town.
I could charge you.
Charge me? And when will you start on the fun-loving boys?
The few men who would help are intimidated by the gang and the fact that the mother of one of the rapists runs the town's only real employer, an abattoir. Asta is an outsider who doesn't take shit from the locals. She's smart, sarcastic and competent. Her strength and self-belief becomes a catalyst for the townspeople to find their own courage.
This time you're going to jail.
Really, Liz? Really get them all? No sense in leaving any out. Then I will too. We'll get them, Liz.
As she roams through Jimbarak, Asta sees the human cost of the lawless culture and challenges the ineffectual local cop to start doing his job. This movie is one of the first feminist westerns. It's a Bad Day at Black Rock, with a woman on a motorcycle instead of Spencer Tracy. It gives us an iconic, strong woman who inspires other women and men to challenge and defeat the evils of their society. When it does arrive, the victory comes at a high price, and it gives us a bleak but satisfying ending, which punches the audience in the guts. Filmed on a relatively low budget, the movie was intended to be Mad Max with a woman on a motorcycle, but the makers of the film took a different direction during production and gave us a bleak, dark mirror on certain aspects of Australian society, particularly masculine pub culture. In 1992, it was remade as an American telemovie, but you don't really want to see that version. If you're going to watch a movie in which Hugh Grant plays a stammering, gormless Englishman, this is the one because his shtick is in context here. Based on the life and work of Australian artist Norman Lindsay, here played by Sam Neill, Sirens is an underrated movie about the eternal war between conservative religion and the free expression of human sexuality in art. Filmed on Lindsay's own property in the Blue Mountains of New South Wales, it's set in the 1920s when his cheekily blasphemous art shocked society. The Anglican Church sends a young minister, Grant, and his wife Estella, played by Tara Fitzgerald, to speak to Lindsay about his work. The Campions find Lindsay, his wife Rose, Pamela Rabe, and a trio of his models, Elle Macpherson, Kate Fisher and Portia de Rossi, living in a kind of Australian secular Eden. The open, relaxed, sensuous world they find themselves in challenges and changes the uptight minister and his wife. Director John Duggan gives us a peculiarly Australian utopia without guilt or judgment, where art matters more than the rules of 20th century society. Macpherson, Fisher and de Rossi as the three muses are decorative, but the outstanding players here are Pamela Rabe, Tara Fitzgerald and Sam Neill as a low-key, puckish Norman Lindsay. There's a lot of whimsical humour in this film. The eye candy, female and male, is here. However, the movie's about the freedom of thought versus religious dogma, which has always been a cultural tug-of-war in Australia. And John Duggan comes out solidly on the side of freedom. Aaron Pedersen is an Australian Indigenous actor who deserves to be a star. In Mystery Road, its 2016 sequel Goldstone, and the 2018 miniseries of the same name, Pedersen plays police detective Jay Swan. In Mystery Road, he returns to his hometown of Winton in Queensland, which is a real town, to investigate the death of an Indigenous teenage girl. Being both a First Nations man and a policeman, Jay is part of but apart from the power structure in the town. He gets challenged by the local coppers, the criminals running a crystal meth business and a brothel for truck drivers, and also has to confront his history with his ex-wife Mary and his daughter Crystal. The supporting cast in Mystery Road is rock solid, with Hugo Weaving and Tony Barry as two of the local cops, Tasma Walton playing Mary, and Jack Charles as Jay's uncle, who gives him some whimsical, friendly advice. The director Ivan Sen uses drone footage in a unique way. The landscape becomes an abstract piece of art, almost like an Indigenous bark painting. The action sequences in this one are solid too. There's a duel between two men using hunting rifles at long distance, which is as good as anything you'll see in another action film. People have called Mystery Road a neo-noir western, but it sits in a genre that doesn't quite have a name yet. Like Goldstone and the Mystery Road series, it's an adventure film and a crime film with grounded characters and situations informed by the history of Indigenous dispossession in Australia. We've come a long way since Jeddah and Marbuk, but we still have a long way to go. Based on Rosalie Ham's 2000 novel, The Dressmaker gives us another toxic Australian town, Dungatar. Tilly Dunnage, played by Kate Winslet, returns to town after being banished by the local copper because she's blamed for the death of another child. Years later, as an adult, Tilly returns to Dungatar in a Dior-inspired dress and sets up a dressmaking business. She helps her infirm mother, played by Judy Davis, and gets involved in the social life of the town to drum up business. Like all small towns in all movies, Dungatar has its secrets. Infidelity, secret passions, emotional abuse and jealousy, all of which make it a very unhappy place. As Tilly makes dresses for the townsfolk, she forms a romantic relationship with the local football hero Teddy, played by Liam Hemsworth, and as the toxic environment of Dungatar comes to a boil, Tilly takes her revenge. Again, the cast here is solid. We get Hugo Weaving again, playing another cop, but a very different one from Mystery Road. We also get a strong female supporting cast, including Alison White, Julia Blake, Kerry Fox, and Sarah Snook. There are two surprising things about The Dressmaker which also delight me. Firstly, it balances humour with drama and tragedy effortlessly. Secondly, and best of all, the movie is basically a spaghetti western in frocks. A stranger comes into town, a stranger who has extraordinary skills, who also has a history of the town and an agenda. Eventually that stranger wreaks havoc on the vested interests who rule the town. This movie is Django or Yojimbo with a Singer sewing machine instead of a machine gun or a katana. If you listen to the score, all the musical clues to the fact of this being a western are there. Django. Once I realised what the movie was, I went back and rewatched it from the start. And yes, this movie is a western. It's rare that a movie can blindside me, but The Dressmaker definitely did. And I'm happy that it did too. If you haven't seen this one, you really should. So there are my 10 Australian movies that you should watch. Thank you for watching part 2. Throw a comment in and let me know if there are any other Australian films you'd like me to cover in a future video. If you enjoyed this, please subscribe and click the like button, and I'll see you next time with more movie related goodness. Look after yourselves.